The sun was low in the sky, stretching shadows across the huge green fields of Whitmore Estate. The place was quiet, clean, and perfect, the kind of land that only the richest people could afford. Somewhere near the edge of the property stood rows of kennels, all full of dogs trained like soldiers. But at the very back, far away from the others, there was one cage people avoided. Inside that cage was Max. Max wasn't just a dog, he was a problem. A big German shepherd with sharp eyes and deep scars on his face. He didn't bark much, but when he did, it sounded like a warning. Most of the time, he growled, low and steady, like something was always boiling under the surface. 3 trainers had tried to work with Max in the past 6 months. One ended up in the hospital with a broken arm. Another needed stitches. The third quit after just 1 day. But Mr. Whitmore, the man who owned the land and everything on it, wouldn't give up on Max. Whitmore had made billions in tech, and now lived alone with his dogs, far from the city. Nobody could understand why he kept Max around. Not until someone saw an old photo in his office. A small boy sitting on a porch with a dog that looked exactly like Max. Underneath the photo were the words, "Me and Duke, 1965. One day, standing near Max's cage with his arms crossed, Whitmore made a short, clear announcement. $1 million, he said, to anyone who can make this dog trust again. No one laughed. Not because of the money, but because they knew this wasn't just about a dog. It was about something Whitmore had lost and wasn't ready to let go of. In the middle of the city, where people rushed past each other without looking up, Maya moved like she wasn't even there. She slept under broken signs and old awnings, curled up tight to stay warm. Most nights, her sweatshirt was damp, and her toes felt numb through the holes in her shoes. She had learned how to go unseen, how to sit still and small so no one would bother her. Not out of fear, just habit. People didn't see her, so she stopped trying to be seen. Maya was 12, though most wouldn't have guessed it. Her face was quiet, like someone who'd grown used to being alone. She never begged. She just offered what she could. A small candy in her palm, or wiping a car window with an old rag that was more holes than cloth. Sometimes people gave her a few coins. Most didn't. She didn't talk much. Not because she couldn't, but because the world rarely listened. Her memories of family were fuzzy now. A warm jacket, the smell of cinnamon, someone humming. But that was a long time ago. What she had now were streets, long nights, and the sound of other people's footsteps walking past. One afternoon, while sitting near a loading dock, she heard 2 men talking as they unloaded boxes. One of them laughed. "That old rich guy out in the hills is offering $1 million for someone to fix his dog." The other replied, "That dog's a monster." Bit a grown man's arm clean through. Maya didn't say a word. She didn't move. But she heard every part. And somehow something about that dog stayed in her mind. Not the money. The dog. Like maybe he was lost too. Like maybe he needed someone like her. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Not because of the cold this time, but because her mind kept circling back to that dog. The one no one could help. The one people called dangerous. She didn't care about the reward. $1 million didn't mean much when you didn't even have a blanket. But something about that dog made her feel something she hadn't in a long time. Like maybe she could matter. "Maybe he needs someone like me," she whispered into the dark, barely loud enough for herself to hear. Before the sun was up, she tied her broken sneakers and filled her plastic bottle at a gas station sink. She didn't know exactly where she was going, just a name, Whitmore Estate, and the idea that it was far away. That didn't scare her. She'd already survived worse. The city faded behind her slowly. Tall buildings turned into broken fences, then open fields. Her legs burned, her lips cracked. The gravel cut into her shoes. Sometimes she walked on the side of the road. Other times she took dirt paths through fields and over train tracks. She stopped to ask people where the place was. Most just shrugged. One man laughed and said, "You're wasting your time, kid. That place isn't for people like you." But she kept walking. At one point, she almost stepped on a snake. Another time, she thought about turning back. But something deep inside, the same quiet strength that helped her survive all those nights alone, kept her feet moving forward. She didn't know what would happen when she got there. She just knew she had to try. By the time Maya reached the estate, the sun was going down, and her legs felt like they might give out. The gate was tall, with metal bars and cameras that followed her as she stepped closer. Behind it, she could see hills and buildings too far to make out. She stood there for a moment, then knocked on the side of the gate. A guard came out. He was big, in a sharp uniform, and wore sunglasses that reflected her tired face right back at her. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice flat. "I heard about the dog," she said quietly. "I want to try." He looked her up and down, then shook his head. "You? That dog would eat you alive." He didn't laugh, just turned around and walked back. The gate stayed shut. Maya didn't leave. That night she curled up next to the fence, her jacket pulled tight around her, her knees to her chest. The ground was hard. The wind was sharp. She didn't sleep much. The next morning she was still there. The guard looked surprised. "Still here?" he asked. "I don't have anywhere else," she answered. The second day, nothing changed. But on the third, someone left half a sandwich near the gate. No note, no words, just food. She ate it slowly, piece by piece. People inside started whispering. A little girl who wouldn't go away. Word traveled up the line. By the fourth day, the message reached the man at the top. On the fourth morning, the air was cool and still. Maya stood at the gate, same spot, same calm face. Her clothes were dirty, her shoes nearly falling apart, but she didn't look tired anymore. She looked ready. Then, from the gravel road behind the trees, she heard footsteps. Slow, steady. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. The guards stood straighter. The workers nearby stopped talking. The man walking toward her didn't speak. He wore a long, dark coat, even though the sun had started to warm the air. His face was sharp, serious. His silver hair moved slightly in the breeze. This was Mr. Whitmore. He stopped just a few feet from her. They looked at each other for a long time. No one else spoke. The world felt quiet. "You're the one who's been waiting?" he finally asked. Maya nodded once. "Why?" Her voice was soft but clear. "I heard no one could reach the dog. Maybe that's why I should try." His eyes didn't change, but something in them shifted. Maybe surprise or maybe something older, something like memory. "He's not safe," he said. "I know." "And you think you can fix him?" She shook her head. "I don't think he needs fixing. Maybe he just needs someone to stay." The silence between them stretched for a moment. Then Whitmore took off his sunglasses. His eyes looked tired but focused. "Be here at sunrise," he said quietly. "You'll have one chance." Maya didn't thank him. She just nodded, like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to finally say yes. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, the staff at Whitmore's estate moved with quiet urgency. In the middle of a large open yard, they set up a strong steel post sunk deep into the ground. Attached to it was a thick chain. At the far end of the property, Max was led out by two handlers wearing padded sleeves. Even with the leash held tight, Max snarled and pulled, his body tense and shaking with anger. His coat, black and gray, rippled over muscle. His eyes were locked on everything and nothing at once. Whitmore stood off to the side, arms crossed, face unreadable. He didn't say a word. The handlers clipped the chain to Max's collar and backed away quickly. One of them rubbed his arm like he was remembering a past bite. Max pulled hard against the chain, growling low in his throat. It sounded like thunder just before a storm. Then Maya stepped into the yard. She didn't carry anything. No treats, no tools, no gear, just herself in the same clothes she'd worn all week. She walked slowly to the edge of the chain's reach and stopped just outside it. Max snapped his head toward her, barking once, sharp, loud, violent. Maya didn't move. She knelt down, folding her legs beneath her, resting her hands on her knees. She didn't speak. She didn't look him directly in the eye. She just waited. Max lunged forward, the chain jerking tight. He barked again, dust kicked up under his paws as he paced back and forth, testing the length of his leash. But Maya stayed still. She didn't flinch. She didn't look scared. Minutes passed. Max's barking stopped. He was still tense, still breathing hard, but he had stopped pacing. His eyes flicked back to her, then away, then back again. Something was changing. Not big, just a small shift. But it was the first sign that he didn't see her as a threat. Maybe, just maybe, he was starting to wonder who she really was. Maya slowly reached into the front pocket of her hoodie. Her fingers moved carefully, not fast, not sudden. She pulled out half a granola bar, wrapped in crumpled foil. It was all she had saved from the day before. Gently, she unwrapped it and placed it on the ground in front of her. Then she leaned back, just a little, and rested her hands on her knees again. Max didn't move at first. His eyes flicked from the food to her face, then back again. The air was so still, it felt like time had paused. No one dared to speak. Even the handlers held their breath. Max stepped forward once. The chain gave a soft clink. He paused. Then he stepped again, 1 foot at a time. When he got close enough, he leaned down, sniffed the bar, then picked it up gently in his mouth. No growl, no bark, just silence. Then something no one expected happened. He sat down, right next to her. From across the field, Whitmore watched, frozen. His arms were still crossed, but his face wasn't hard anymore. He looked like someone seeing a memory come to life. Maya didn't look at Max. She just kept her eyes low and whispered, so quiet it was almost lost in the breeze. "It's okay. I'm not here to make you do anything." Max didn't move away. He stayed. Calm. Still. Like maybe for the first time, he felt safe. The field was still quiet when Whitmore stepped forward. His shoes crunched softly over the gravel, but Maya didn't turn to look. Max was sitting beside her now, calm and close, like he had chosen her. Whitmore stopped a few feet away. "You did it," he said. His voice was low but clear. "No one else has ever gotten close." She stood slowly, brushing dirt off her knees. Max stayed seated, eyes following her every move. "The $1 million is yours," Whitmore said. Maya looked at him, then at Max, then back again. "I don't want the money," she said simply. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. "No?" She shook her head. "I want a room. Somewhere safe. A bed I won't get kicked out of. 2 meals a day. And school. I want to go to school." Whitmore looked at her like he was seeing something he didn't expect. "That's all?" he asked. Maya nodded. "That's all." There was a short silence between them, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt real, like something honest had just passed from one heart to another. And in that moment, the money didn't matter. What mattered was that someone had finally asked for what they actually needed, and someone else had listened. That night, Maya slept in a real bed for the first time in her life. The mattress was soft, the blanket smelled clean, and the pillow felt like it had been waiting just for her. Outside her room, Max lay curled up by the door, ears twitching at every sound, but calm, watchful, not scared. In the room across the hall, Whitmore sat alone with the old photo in his hands. The boy and the dog, frozen in time. His voice was barely a whisper. She reminded him he was never broken. The next morning, the sun rose over the hills, gentle and golden. Maya walked barefoot down the stone path beside Whitmore, her steps easy, quiet. Max followed close behind, his tail low and steady, like a shadow that had finally found its place. No one questioned it. No one needed to. She was home. It was never really about the $1 million. Not for her. Not even for him. What mattered was something quieter, something most people forget to look for. Sometimes, the world doesn't need heroes or loud answers. Sometimes it just needs someone who shows up, stays, and sees what others walk past. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything. For a dog, for a girl, and for a man who thought he had nothing left to save.